Hey, what's up, guys? Mike coming to you from down in the dungeon. And yeah, I'm gonna be getting my hair cut pretty soon. I think later this week. It's getting a little out of control, but the beard is gonna stay. And I like fluffing my beard out like this. I know it probably doesn't look flattering, but I don't give a shit. There's what is it? I call it the Civil War general look. Look up General Burnsides, right? He had these like big, giant, thick, like sideburns, and I don't know. I don't give a shit, about that kind of stuff. But I do need a haircut. My hair, I hate the shower, right? Like I like to shower. Obviously, I'm pretty clean. But the problem with long hair, the problem with long hair is it takes forever to get the fucking soap out, and I don't want to be in there just doing that, So I don't know, whatever. So this video is actually going to be a little bit more of an explanation about what I talked about yesterday. I think maybe I was a little bit too harsh with the fakeness of the Christians. When you post a video with the title "All Christians Are Fake," it sounds like hyperbole. Like, if you know what that means, like that just sounds like that, right? Sounds like an over-exaggeration of a statement, and it is truthfully meant to sound that way. But the way that I think and the way that I feel is it's actually a true statement. So, I don't necessarily know that if you're a fake Christian or if you're a Christian, maybe we should just call you Christians. Instead of fake Christians, we just call you Christians since all of you are fake. See, I'm not trying to be intentionally be mean, right? But I have I reserve the right to just say whatever the fuck I want. So anyway, the way that I think is kind of like, it's a little bit, let me try to explain. If you believe something, and see, the heart of it, the heart of it really is that I don't think that they take their beliefs seriously. That's why they're fake. Okay? So if you take what you claim to believe seriously, okay, then your life would be different. It would look different, mainly in your priorities and your values. They would look different if you took it seriously. So your value structure wouldn't be, for example, like based on the future. Okay? So it wouldn't be like I'm gonna, my 401k and my stock investments, and I'm trying to create a legacy, or I don't know, pay off my mortgage for this, my house, whatever it is. Like, those things wouldn't be such a priority, because your priority and your focus would be on like heavenly things. Okay? Now, it says it in the book. I have read it multiple times. Now, I will admit I've read like the Old Testament, places in the Old Testament I've read a bunch of times, but some of the Old Testament I've only read once. The New Testament, however, I have read not countless, but a lot, okay? Because it's kind of short. It's relatively short. And it's just in there, right? It's in there. Okay? So, like, look at the people who really take their Christianity seriously. And when I say all Christians, now, you got to understand the way my mind works. My mind works with this sort of all, like generalizations. That's how I work. That's how most things work. Okay? Of course, I know there are exceptions to things. Of course, I know that. I don't need to hear the fucking anecdotal, whatever. The what is it they say? Something, it doesn't disprove the rule, whatever it is, right? So your little one exception doesn't disprove the rule. Okay? So but if you look at some of these people that would be like the closest to what you would actually think that a New Testament Christian would be, and I don't even want to say be, because be, that's kind of a complicated word. What a New Testament Christian would look like to the eyes, the eye test. Remember, we mentioned that. You see these missionaries, okay? And there have been times in history, and there probably is still today, these missionaries that they go to spread the gospel to places that are impoverished. They embed themselves with the community. Maybe they go to places where that is, what would you say, dangerous, right? Where it's dangerous to spread the gospel. I don't know. I'm thinking like North Korea or something, okay? And then they get real persecution, not a persecution complex like all the rest of the Christians have, the fake ones. But they face actual real persecution, torture, and death. Those people, those might actually be real Christians, you know what I mean? Like that seems to line up, right? Think about that guy that tried to take the gospel to the North Sentinelese on North Sentinel Island or whatever, and got killed immediately. Probably, either he was doing it for show, right? Like, oh, look how brave I am to impress a woman, or, right? Because that's why we do everything. Different video, but in that case, that would be like a false Christian thing to do, right? It's like a virtue signal. Or he really believed it, right? Those are really the only two options. Like, he really believed it. And he really thought that God was going to use him as an instrument, that God would save his life, and that even if God didn't, that it would be okay. That's a real Christian right there. Real Christian. He wins the real Christian badge. Wow, he's authentic. But that's not what 99% of Christians aren't willing to do that. Their faith is not strong enough for them to run into a situation that could produce imminent death, right? And I'm thinking of like a more practical example, like a firefighter or something. A firefighter runs into a burning building to save a child, not because he's a Christian. Maybe he is a Christian. Doesn't matter. He does it because it's like the right thing to do. Like, I would do that. I'm not a Christian. And if I had the opportunity to save somebody's life, right, like in that situation, I would do it too, because it's called like honor. It's an honorable thing to do. It's a heroic thing to do. All right. And nobody ever really believes they're going to die anyway, right? Nobody really believes they're going to die. Everybody always thinks, I'm going to sneak out of this situation for sure. I'm going to get through. Anyway, but let's go so fake. What is fake? Fake is, just by definition, fake is not genuine. Fake is not authentic, all right? Authenticism, is that a word? I don't know. Authentic. These are like my favorite words, one of my highest values, right? So, yeah, you're just fake. And I guess it's okay. I guess it's, look, Christianity, okay, or a belief in God at some point in my life had served me, appears to have served me well. And I say appears to have served me well because I don't actually know, okay? I was really close to killing myself, okay? I was doing drugs all the time, drinking all the time, and you know, I'm in a facility, and I need, you know, a Bible, right? I start reading the Bible, etc., and then my whole life turns around. Okay, it sounds like a miraculous moment. It sounds like it does, right? And at the time, and even up maybe till today. See, that's the thing. I don't fucking know everything. I'm still figuring shit out. All you motherfuckers that fucking know everything. But at the time, and maybe even up to this morning, I don't know, but it seemed like this was a miraculous thing, that this religion, God, helped me through this time, right? But then that's sort of taken a little bit away from the fact that I quit doing drugs and quit drinking, right? All simultaneously. So was it the fact that I turned to God and God got me out of this situation? Or was it the fact that I quit doing drugs and quit drinking? You see what I'm saying? Like, we can tell ourselves narratives, right? And to make ourselves feel better, okay? Recently, my wife was in the hospital and having labor, and it was very difficult, and I didn't have anywhere to turn. It wasn't like I could say, you know, God help us, because I didn't believe in that, right? But you know, my wife, we were talking last night, well, isn't that the benefit? The crutch? And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't really, you know, in this current state here and what I currently know, I don't know the benefit of religion. I don't know the benefit of believing in God. I don't know, you know, I'm still so anti-religion at this point that I haven't found a way to see the virtue in it, because I don't really see a lot of virtue in believing things that are false. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong, right? Maybe there's something I'm not seeing, something that I have yet to discover, that there is some virtue of believing things that are untrue to make yourself feel better. I don't know. Like, you know, if I would have been able to turn to God in those moments, would it have made me feel better? If I believed in God, yeah, it probably would have made me feel better. But I don't necessarily know if believing false things for self-soothing is necessarily a good thing or a positive thing. I don't know that. That's still something I've got to, you know, explore. Okay. You know, I think that, you know, you see a lot of, there's a church here locally to us, and it's an absolutely heinous, disgusting organization. But a lot of people, one of its big things is like, you know, drug addicts, right? Like, so rescuing drug addicts from addiction and things like that. So God can rescue you from addiction. This is fairly close to my situation, although I don't know if I was an addict. I feel like I was using drugs as like a coping mechanism or as a distraction or something. Maybe that's the definition of an addict. You know, when you go to like NA or AA or whatever, they make you self-denigrate by saying that my name's Michael and I'm an alcoholic. So you identify with this thing, and it's supposed to, it's probably supposed to bring everybody together around this thing, but I don't necessarily know if that's a positive thing to really do either. Like, you know, my name is Michael and I drink alcohol, but I'm not a fucking alcoholic. I'm a Michael, or I'm a human, or I'm a whatever, right? Like, I don't necessarily know that identifying myself with a thing that I do is necessarily positive, right? So you got to understand, I don't have all this shit figured out like all you motherfuckers. All you motherfuckers that got shit, you just know everything and you got everything figured out. I don't necessarily know if calling myself a former drug addict is necessarily a good fucking thing. I don't, right? I don't know. I haven't gone down that fucking rabbit hole yet. I may never, because I'm not that interested in it, you know? But just the same as I don't know necessarily if believing in God or believing in a higher power or religion, I don't necessarily know that that is a net positive. I don't know that. And I you know, it would be something that I'd like to figure out. I would like to think that it is, because all of these motherfuckers and friends of mine are all believing this stuff. And I would like to think that it's a net positive, but I don't know that it is. To me, I just don't know that it is, you know? You know, one of the things that led me out of Christianity was that I was trying to be a real Christian. And then I learned too much, you know? I learned that it was all made up. And then I gave it up. Because I'm not willing to live in some, you know, false reality. Maybe there is some, you know, benefit to it. But I just haven't discovered it yet. This church and the drug addicts, I thought I had a point over there, but I don't really necessarily remember what it was now. Oh, I was going to say, well, maybe it's good for these drug addicts to believe in a higher power, and maybe that helps them become not drug addicts. And I would say that if for a period of time that you know is the case, and that could be a positive for the time. But I've also got this thing in that I haven't quite articulated yet. Maybe I'll make a video on it soon if I can remember. Is religion as a rite of passage. By that I mean religion as a mode of going from one stage of life to the next. So you see, I haven't got it all figured out yet, but basically as religion as a rite of passage from this sort of stage of, well, it'd be Fowler stage 3 of life into the next stage of life, or the second half of life, which is what this channel is, right? Life after 40. And then where you don't really need the religion anymore. Okay, but you know, that's probably a topic for another video. Anyway, if you are a Christian, you know, I think the best thing for Christians to do is to try to learn as much as you possibly can about the books that you claim to get your doctrine from. Okay, you got your beliefs from these books, right? There's some books that told you what happened, and you believe them, and you believe that you got your entire worldview is derived from these books. Then you need to study the books. Study the books. That's what got me out. Was that I found out that the books were all kind of, you know, unreliable, right? Study the books, okay? You don't need to study somebody's fucking interpretation of the books. You don't need to study some theology, systematic theology, all this shit, all these echo chambers that are just going to keep reverberating the same bullshit at you. Study the books, the physical books, okay? The Torah and the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Study the actual physical material where you got your worldview from. And if you do that, well, it'll probably, at best for you and your worldview, it'll teach you maybe how little you know, And at worst for your worldview, it'll turn you into me that doesn't believe any of the shit. So anyway, that's probably enough for today. But look, shit, man, I ought to make just a video, and then all the video says is that, hey, if you're a Christian, study the books. Study the books. Study them long enough, and then you'll have a better grasp on reality and history and control. Watch the movie. I need to end this video. What's that movie? Heretic, where he talks about control, and control being the one true religion. That's what he says. He says, I've discovered the one true religion, and it's control.